Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, geeks, nerds, ambassadors, Poindexters, and everybody in between, and welcome to the Ambassadorial Wing. And tonight, we are continuing our review of WandaVision, Episode 5.
Yep. Let's do this.
And with me this evening, I have got the Spider-Man fan, the number one Spider-Man fan in the entire multiverse, Andrew Casale, and I've got my good friend, Sir Nerdlot. Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight, and glad you're here. Glad to have you up.
Hey, anytime, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, Andrew, you often
thank you for having me.
Yeah, Nerdlot, you too, dude. Guys, you both oftentimes have really good takes, so glad to have you both back and everything tonight. And Nerdlot, glad your computer's up and running and functioning properly, thankfully. And a quick shout out to the chat, a long lost friend that I have not seen in a while. Speaker for the Dead. Speaker, it is good to see you. We have missed you. And also to the chat, William Jackson. Good evening. I think this is your first time I'm seeing you in the chat. So welcome to the Ambassadorial Wing. Glad you're here. And just a little housekeeping as always. Make sure you smash that like button. Smash it, hex it, whatever works for you, and make sure you share this with all your MCU friends or all your comic book fans, whatever the case may be. But as I started to mention, we are covering Episode 5, a very special episode of WandaVision, and this stream might go a little long because there's a lot in this episode to unpack. I mean, there's a hell of a lot to unpack. So, gentlemen, I've kind of done my spiel. I opened the floor. There's a lot to get to, so let's not stand on any further ceremony. Let's get to it. Where do you want to begin?
Well, what an episode. Well, it clearly shows that...
It was a very special episode.
Well, one, apparently it's showing that apparently after Endgame, Wanda went to Sword and got Vision's dead body, which I apparently figured out.
Yeah, the nice thing about this episode, it does give us a time frame for where this show takes place.
So it's 9 weeks after Endgame.
Roughly, yeah. The director, Hayward, Tyler Hayward, I finally remember his name because they actually said it more than once. They had their little briefing after Monica gets out of her examination, and they give us one comment that I'm making. You fellas can give your feedback on this. I like the fact that they've set up a time frame for where this show takes place, and the fact that the exposition doesn't feel ham-fisted. It doesn't feel forced.
Does it feel forced?
Oh yeah,
it doesn't. No, it doesn't feel forced.
Like
it doesn't feel like it's
the info dumps. Like they're right. Natural. They're a part of the progression of the episodes. Okay, no, it's all really really well laid out. The way everything's been happening. Like even with like the first 2 episodes that were, people were complaining about how slow they were.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have this gratification now that we're getting if we just blazed right into everything. And I really, really like the pacing that this show is having.
Well, I've listened to several reviews or anything on the show myself. Nerdlot, I haven't had a chance to catch yours, but I'm definitely going to go back and watch yours maybe tomorrow, or maybe on Monday or anything, sometime before the next episode pops up. But I've heard several people comment that this is what they call a slow burn series, and I cannot say I disagree with it, because it gives you bits of information at a time, and it gives you character development a little bit at a time, but it doesn't feel like it's not progressing anywhere. I mean, the first couple episodes might have felt like they were very slow, but they were building the universe that we are going to be inhabiting. They were introducing us to the stakes and what's going on in the world. It was building that mystery.
Yeah, they're building that mystery. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
mystery.
No,
the mystery of those first 2 episodes was just fantastic, you know. And then when that 3rd episode dropped, no wait, the 4th episode. When the 4th episode dropped, you know, and we find out everything that's going on the outside, you know.
Well,
like, it's just like, oh, you know, the curtain's been revealed.
Yeah, and it's made up by Wanda. But not too fine a point on it.
Or at least being prolonged by Wanda, at least.
Yeah.
I got a couple theories.
Well, I've got a couple theories, and we'll start doing some theorizing here in a little bit and everything as we get through the episode. But the one thing that they are handling exceptionally well, and I was a little worried once they introduced the outside world outside of Westview, how well this was going to balance out. Now that we understand what's going on outside of Westview and what's still going on inside of Westview, were they going to be able to balance the time and intercut these 2 storylines? And thankfully, they've been able to do so fairly effectively, I would have to say. Of course, we got the twins, Billy and Tommy, and, well, they're growing boys. And of their own accord, let's put it that way. So,
yeah, I mean, they grow fast.
Yeah, they go from infancy to, what, is it 10 years old?
Yeah, by the end of the episode. Yeah. The first jump is 5, I think.
Yeah. And then the next one is 10 or 11, somewhere along in there. So, but the thing I found interesting is the family dynamic has most definitely changed, and I think that Vision is having a hard time adjusting to be a parent. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I have a feeling that they might get to start already having their powers.
Say that again, Andrew.
Well, I feel like when it shows like how they can like grow, they try to make sure they're already starting to develop their powers.
I think.
How long do you think she can control Vision? Is he really alive, or just a creation of hers? She has his body, so.
Yeah, Speaker, I'm gonna say. Again, that's another theory that we need to dig into. Maybe this is a good time to do it, being Speaker brought it up. I think I think Vision is alive. I think Wanda has something to do with that. But it's going to come to a point where he's going to want to leave Westview. He's going to get tired of being inside this fantasy land that Wanda has created, because Vision has a very strong ethical code that he operates or functions within. And for him, living inside what he conceives as a lie or an illusion flies in the face of everything that he is made up of. I mean, if you remember, Vision is made up of the Mind Stone, is made up of the Jarvis program, a little bit of Ultron, a little bit of Tony, and a little bit of Banner. And I think what's at play right now is probably the Jarvis program and possibly a little bit of Banner's personality that was programmed in as well. So, fellas, any theories on that?
Well, they did say like he brought him back without the Mind Stone.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing: when you see him with his flesh back on, or his, I think the Mind Stone's there. So the question is it all an illusion, or is that actually the Mind Stone? That's the real question.
Such a call.
Say it one more time, Andrew.
That's one of the mysteries that I don't know, because like when you think about it, like he's not actually a living human being,
right?
You know, he's a sentient being. Yes. So it would definitely be easier to bring him back from the dead than, say, you know, someone else who comes back.
Yes,
from the dead.
Yeah, because she takes his body and she essentially reanimates it through her abilities, through the Mind Stone. So,
but then you got to think that he is having almost like a crisis of conscience, you know,
right.
Like, you know, in that which is an awesome scene when him and Wanda are arguing.
Yeah, it was like, and, you don't get to make that choice from me, Wanda.
Exactly. Yeah. That
I was
you
like,
don't
finally
get to make that choice
for
me. So that tells me that like he has his own consciousness separate from Wanda. So that really makes me lean towards the fact that he is actually resurrected, or reborn, or however you want to put it.
Yeah. Now the question is going to become, how far does that resurrection go?
At one point, because as we saw him at the end of Infinity War after his death, that is true.
Yeah. When Wanda is, it's in the last episode before this one.
Yeah.
Her powers are on the fritz or something, or she loses track of something, and she and the illusion of Vision with the Mind Stone torn out, where I think how he looked when Thanos ripped the Mind Stone out of his head.
Yeah.
Now here's another interesting thing, and it's something that's brought up in the briefing there at the sword outpost outside of Westview. I can't remember if it was Agent Wu or if it was Hayward that mentioned this, but Vision had a living will that said that he did not want his body tampered with in any way, shape, or form. But however, we do see that at the main sword base, his body has been disassembled. Now, the question is, why did they dismantle him if he has a living will that says that he doesn't want to? Essentially, I think what Hayward was trying to say, or Hayward was trying to say in terms of his living will, is that he did not want to be resurrected. And Wanda has violated.
I remember in Infinity War, he's like, "We are literally out of time."
Well, it really doesn't have anything to do with what they're talking about here.
Yeah,
but
my thought is that they were definitely experimenting on his body, though, at the sword,
or at least examining it.
Like, if you're not experimenting, you know, at least examining it, you know. So part of me wonders whether like Wanda found out about that and was like, "Oh no,
oh hell
and then
no,"
went and took it from him for that reason. You know, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But then she got the idea in her head to resurrect him. Because here's the thing. You remember what she said in Endgame. You took what she said to Thanos just before she started kicking his ass. You took everything away from me. He literally took away the one person that she cared about. Not to mention, if you think about it, he snapped away half of everyone that she perceived as her family, that being the Avengers. So, to her, what she's doing is perfectly justified. That's the big thing. Is in her mind, everything she's doing is justified. And that even ties into the scene when they send that 1980s drone into Westview. She figures out what they're doing, and she comes through the force field with the wreckage of it, and she's like, "I believe this belongs to you."
Well, hold on. Mind if I say something about that part?
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I remember when I saw Enosh reviewing this, someone pointed out saying like, well, was that really her who walked out of it because we haven't seen her have her accent since Age of Ultron, and her clothes changed.
Yeah, her clothes changed to her Avengers uniform or costume.
Yeah, so someone was saying like, was that really her that walked out?
Well, the thing you have to remember,
and she's
Andrew,
really dark.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If you remember when we're introduced to her the first time in Age of Ultron, she is very dark. But
true.
The other matter is her Sokovian accent. I think if you've ever encountered somebody from from the South or the Deep South, you make them mad, their accent gets really super pronounced. Or you get somebody that's like immigrated from another country, they have an accent, but when they get mad or they get stressed, their accent really starts to come out. Because after a while, a person who has lived here in the States from another country, their accent may start to degrade, but if they're under extreme stress, it will return. I've actually, I had a former professor, he passed away sadly, who was from France. But amazingly, she had lived here for decades, and her accent never degraded. It never went away. But I've met other people and everything from other countries where their accent does start to fade somewhat. But if you make them upset, or if you make them happy, that accent will really come through. And I think in this case with Wanda, the Sokovian accent is coming out because she is very, very angry. I mean, you think Bruce Banner's bad when he's mad. He ain't nothing compared to Wanda. Now, I don't know if either one of you caught this or not, but Madam Ambassador mentioned this to me, and I realized it. When she's there with Hayward, and all those soldiers, and Monica's out there along with Agent Wu, does that particular scene remind you of anything we've seen from another Marvel movie?
What, with all the agents? Oh, the original XMen.
Yeah, exactly.
With Magneto saying Homo sapiens in your gut.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was actually deliberate to kind of draw a parallel between her and Magneto, because if you know your X-Men lore, I do. I imagine most everybody here does. In the comics, at least, because they haven't done that connection between... Well, they couldn't do that connection between Magneto and Wanda. Magneto is actually the father of Wanda and Quicksilver. The Evan Peters or the comic book version, not the other Quicksilver we met in Age of Ultron that sadly died. I think they're trying to set up something that's going to start bringing the X-Men characters into the main MCU universe, and this is something else I wanted to bring up. And y'all comment on this, everything. When she alters the field that's surrounding Westview when it turns pure red, something tells me that's altering the reality within the world that Westview exists in. Like it's almost degrading or starting to break down the barriers between universes or multiverses. So,
ooh, yeah.
Andrew, Nerdlodge. Well, okay. One other thing, and then you guys chime in. If you remember, it was in the last episode. They were saying that this field was giving off a lot of radiation and everything, a lot of CMBR, or C. Yeah, I think that's the right acronym for it. And that right now, that energy is fairly well contained, but it's starting to emanate out further. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I didn't think about how this could start leaking open the multiverse. That's interesting. Hey, Bryce.
Yeah, I definitely have some ideas about the CMBR, the cosmic microwave radio.
The floor is yours.
Radiation, background radiation.
Yeah, Nerdlot, the floor is yours.
Oh well, it also relates to something else. So I don't want to go on this long tangent about, because there is a very specific group that gains their power from radiation.
You're thinking the same thing I am. Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of Fantastic Four, they did say something about an aerospace engineer. Whether that's Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic.
That's a possibility.
And that's the other thing I was going to say. My theory is that Reed Richards is the aerospace engineer that Monica Rambeau was talking about.
Yeah, that'll be wild.
I have the very distinct impression that WandaVision is going to be the vehicle by which they bring the X-Men and Fantastic Four both into the main MCU timeline. And if that's the case, I will be as happy as a pig in slop, to use an old Southern term.
Yeah, imagine if they bring in Mr. Fantastic and John Krasinski.
Yeah. John Krasinski, yeah, that's kind of my dream team right there. John, go ahead, Nerdlot, please.
So another thing in episode 4, when we get introduced to the sword complex, and director Hayward is talking to Monica, they bring up the astronaut program. The astronaut program that had to be sidelined because of the blip. All the astronauts were even blipped, or they had lost their nerve, I think what they said. And
yes,
who also were astronauts? The Fantastic Four.
Not astronauts purely. They were more scientists, but I do follow where you're going. I do. And I cannot say I disagree. Yeah. Something tells me this CMBR is going to be a bigger thing than what we're realizing right now, because it's basically cosmic radiation, more or less.
Cosmic.
And
yeah.
I can't remember what the acronym is short for CMBR, I
think it's cosmic microwave background radiation.
That's it. Yeah,
because that's the same type of radiation that originates from the Big Bang.
Big Bang, yeah, and
it's everywhere.
Essentially, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Sword and WandaVision are going to be, like I said, I think they're going to be the means by which everybody else gets brought in. Because somebody pointed this out in a review that I saw, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. When Vision folds his newspaper over in this episode, with the way it's folded, the letters HOM are highlighted.
HOM.
House of M. It's in reference
to
the
House
of M storyline. Now, again, I think that's another wink and a nod to the fact that they're going to be bringing in the X-Men, and there could be a wink and a nod to who maybe as it's been referenced, the Luke Skywalker level cameo appearance.
That might be Michael Fassbender as Magneto.
Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. Am I saying I'm opposed to it? No, but I'm the pragmatist here. I'm going to wait and see what they do instead of doing a bunch of speculation. Would I love to see Fassbender? Because, yeah, I would. Do I think McKellen would? He's getting a little bit up there. I don't know if he'd want to come back for just a one-off cameo. Not to mention, if they're going to have Magneto in this timeline, you're going to want an actor that's still young enough that he can do the work.
And that's Fassbender.
And that would be Fassbender. I honestly, when they introduced young Magneto in X-Men First Class, I thought he was one of the strong points of the movie. I loved the fact that they did. I love the fact that they did like a soft reboot of the X-Men universe, and that they were kind of working back up through the decades. They started in the 60s and 70s and then went to the 80s. And then, well, I haven't watched Dark.
I love that scene. I love that scene where Magneto like lifts up an entire stadium.
Oh yeah, in Days of Future Past. Yeah, I did.
Imagine. Yeah, I mean, imagine if like he like flies in and says, "I am your real father, child. I am Eric Fletcher, also known as Magneto."
Well, I don't know if it'll be anything that grandiose per se. Now, here's the interesting thing that they did do. They did do a short overview or timeline for Wanda and for Pietro. And they did give names to their parents that were unfortunately killed during one of the Civil Wars.
What if those weren't her real parents and they were just they were adopted?
Adoptive parents, it's a possibility. But again, here's the thing. The Wanda we're dealing with is not a mutant. The Wanda we're dealing with is an enhanced human who was experimented upon with an Infinity Stone, which I think is going to be something else that they kind of hinted at in this episode. And it's something that I think is going to be a plot. It's going to be a plot thread going forward with the MCU, both I think in the TV shows and in the movies. Whenever the movies get start back up again, because they reference both Wanda and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, in this episode, talking about their powers and everything. And I don't think they brought that up just willy-nilly. I think there was a reason why they brought that up. And it kind of goes back to a theory I had about a unintentional group that has been created within the MCU, and that's what I call the Children of Infinity. Because you used to have 4 of them, now there's just 2 of them. The 4 were originally, well, one of them's still alive. Well, technically. You've got Wanda, obviously. You've got Captain Marvel. You've got Vision. And then, of course, you had Pietro, who was the first Quicksilver, the non-mutant Quicksilver.
Right.
And I think that's something that's going to be playing out. I think those 2 characters, or potentially 3, depending on what happens with Vision in this series, they're going to have a bigger part in the MCU going forward. Because never in the X-Men, in any of the Marvel comics, did they ever do any type of experimentation on human beings with the Infinity Stones. That has not happened. This is something that was introduced as a concept in the MCU movies. Yeah, and I'll bring up Barcelona's comments here. I feel bad for people that stopped watching the show. Yeah, Barcelona, I feel the same way. And then she's so they've been referencing Captain Marvel a lot in the past couple episodes. Yeah, they have, and I think that's also deliberate. Fellas, anything along the lines, or just anything? Go ahead.
Well, one thing about I think kind of what you're getting at is that, like, in an after effect of the snaps or the use of the Infinity Stones, that we're going to get the X gene, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, the mutant gene.
Because that is one of my theories, because if you look back in Infinity War, I think it is, Rocket Raccoon, or maybe it's the beginning.
I remember him saying that the snap
Rocket talks about this massive burst of radiation that went through the whole galaxy.
And one of that radiation was the X-Men mutant gene.
Yep, that could be one of the side effects of, and maybe that side effect was from Tony's snap, the very last snap, so we haven't quite seen the effects of it happening yet. It's just one possibility.
It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's completely invalid, but I think they're already working towards how they're going to bring mutants into the picture here. I think it's going to be a reality, a dimensional crossing, more so than anything, because I have to go back to that field that's surrounding Westview. I think that is having an effect on the dimension, the multiversal barriers between universes. And I get the very distinct impression that the whatever universe it is that the X-Men and the Fantastic Four inhabit, they're eventually going to cross over from that reality into the main Marvel universe. Now, am I saying that they couldn't potentially introduce other mutants through either one of the snaps that either Thanos or Tony did? No, I'm not saying that isn't a possibility. It's a very distinct possibility. It could happen. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's a cool theory. Don't misunderstand me. It's an absolutely a cool theory. I did want to ask you guys.
I mean, really, I don't care which one's right. I just am excited to get X-Men at some point because we know it's going to happen.
Yeah. Marcy, I'll answer your question. Do you think Quicksilver is the actual Quicksilver
from the X-Men films?
Yeah, Barcelona. I think the Quicksilver we saw is the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. I don't think this was I think this is your first evidence of the barriers between
the multiverse.
Between the multiverses starting to break down.
Yeah, and I think that this will only be the beginning because if you know DC and how just recently they're bringing in other IP characters from their past live action movies and shows, this is the start of Marvel doing it.
Yeah. And Lennon Poole, I don't think I've ever seen you in my chat, so welcome and thank you for tuning in tonight.
He says Willem Dafoe, Spider-Man said.
If that's the case, cool.
Yep.
I actually liked
Green Goblin's back. Woohoo!
Or just Norman Osborn's back. Either way. Kind of getting back to the episode a little bit, because we kind of got off a little bit of a tangent, but that's okay. That doesn't bother me because there's a lot here in this episode to break down.
I wanted to ask you both. It's so easy to get off on a tangent. Sorry.
True. No, Nerdlot, you're good, bud. I want to ask you guys about the twins because if you noticed, Wanda's powers do not work on them.
Oh yeah.
Any theories about that? Do you think they're immune, or what do you think the case might be?
So I think it might be something about children in general because you don't see any other children in Westview. Well, and maybe that's why there's not, because like you just literally like with the power that she's using, something about a child's mind, because child's minds are absolutely brilliant, there's something about it that she can't manipulate.
Right.
I don't know.
Andrew, what about you?
Well, I kind of agree with you because maybe like because I know in the comics, Mephisto wants to use her kids as like levers so he can become a part of them. And if you notice that in the same thing, like I think it was Agnes, like looked like she had like some spraying something on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was spraying some sort of.
Agnes is definitely interested in the kids, and I think she is there for the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
Barcelona
says, I hear someone say the kids are going to be the new Avengers.
Well, Neon asked, "Don't the kids have powers?" Yes, I do believe Neon. I do believe the kid. I do believe Billy and Tommy do have powers. Linenpool, I don't know if I necessarily agree with what you're saying there. You don't believe the kids are real. I think they very much are real because everybody else sees them. Everybody else interacts with them. So my guess is that
Monica, like, I think Jimmy Woo expresses that same thought, and Monica's like, no, the kids are real. Like,
yeah,
they're actually there. I don't know what makes her like 100% that they are, but she seems to think that they are. and she's been there.
I think Billy and Tommy are 100% real. I think she did give birth. So, my theory is this. How do I want to word this? I think the boys are enhanced humans, possibly, or they could potentially. I want to emphasize this, so Andrew, don't go crazy.
Oh boy.
It is potentially possible that the boys are mutants themselves and that their ability is kind of around the same. Just let me finish, Andrew, before you go nuts. I think that their power is leans towards reality manipulation. Kind of like, I don't know if either one of you guys have ever heard of a character from the Fantastic Four. Owen Reese, I think his name is, the Molecule Man.
I think I've heard of that.
Okay. He has the ability to warp and bend reality to his will. I think the boys are... Okay, here's one you both probably heard of. Franklin Richards. Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm's son. He's a very powerful, like Omega level reality manipulator.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
William Jackson, you have a good night and live long and prosper to you as well. And we'll hope to see you again soon. And I'll bring up Speaker's comment here. She may have given them life of their own, like Moriarty on the Star Trek episode where Day used the holodeck to make a foil for his story. Speaker, that's a possibility too, and that's not a bad reference, but good one, truly. The other thing about the boys is this. Obviously, as I mentioned before, her powers do not work on them because she couldn't get them to go to sleep. And she does have some sort of restraint over them because they wanted to age up and skip past the grief of the dog Sparky dying. So she does have some sort of sway over them, however little it is, but she at least was able to keep them from going that far. And
I really like that moment, by the way.
Yeah, I did as well.
That moment where she talks them down from age birding. Like I might be going like too deep on this, but it's kind of like like earlier she had been trying to control them with like her reality manipulation powers, and at this time she gets down on her knees and like she talks to her kids and and then that's when they kind of side with her and decide not to do the age spurt. It was really actually kind of touching for me, actually.
Well, and here's the other interesting thing. She has to reason with them because I think she realizes that beings they are made up from her DNA, they may have an immunity to her powers. And the other thing is, and this is something that you all mentioned, there are no other children in Westview except for the boys. And
that is true.
Vision mentioned this in the episode. Here's what I'm thinking, because you notice it's all adults that's in Westview, no kids except for theirs.
Then if it was just her kids, then that has a reason for in the previous ones than when they said for the children.
Yeah, because where are the children? Because if they have a school, where are the kids? Unless, again, it's all obviously an illusion. But here is the theory I have, and you guys can chime in with your thoughts on it. I think Wanda deliberately did not put children in the town because of what happened to her and Pietro.
In Sokovia.
Exactly, in Sokovia. So what do you guys think about
that? Actually makes more sense.
That's a good idea.
That makes more sense.
So I do want to bring up Lyndon Poole's question here because it's not a bad one. I'd love to see the Punisher introduced to the MCU, maybe in Deadpool. What are your thoughts? Actually, Lyndon Poole, I think what they're doing with the WandaVision series is a possible way that they could bring the Punisher into the main MCU timeline. And they could do the thing. Here's the thing with the Wanda show, with WandaVision series. Depending on how long it runs, if it's just going to be the 9 episodes and that's it, or if it's going to be an ongoing series one way or the other. They have introduced a precedent that they can use to bring characters that they did not have access to before in now, and that is through the multiverse dynamic.
Yeah.
Again, there could be a reality where the Avengers, all those characters existed, but the XMen and the Fantastic Four and the Punisher and whoever else,
everyone,
can be introduced now. So yeah, I'm not opposed to them bringing Punisher in. I actually liked Punisher. I'll tell you all.
John Bernthal Punisher?
Either John Bernthal. Now I can't speak from experience because I never got a chance to watch the series. Never had Netflix. But I will say
I think it should be because he was like born to play Punisher.
What about all the other actors like Thomas Jane and Ray Stevenson, Dolph Lundgren?
Well, Dolph Lundgren's a little long in the tooth.
No.
And what about Thomas Jane?
Darla, I'll let you field this first. Go ahead.
What's that?
What about Thomas
Jane? I think. Now, I really, really like John Bernthal or whatever, however you pronounce his name, the guy from The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
I've seen even when I was watching The Walking Dead, I was like, that guy looks like he should be playing the Punisher. Like he looked like him before he even got the role.
Yeah. I've seen clips of Bernthal's turn as the he is very good. He does deliver on the single-mindedness and the brutality of the character, and I think he did an outstanding job. So
yeah, like that one scene where he's in the courthouse and with Matt Murdock, he's like, "You love me in the nut house? Not on my watch. You call me the Punisher, the big bad Punisher." Neon Sci-Fi says, "Bring back Daredevil's Charlie Cox."
Yeah, Neon again. I think what they're doing with WandaVision, that's going to be your in for a lot of characters from the Speaker for the Dead. I hear what you're saying. It stinks. It sucks. But we're going to try and look at what's good right now, rather than.
I heard about that. Yeah. God dang it.
Yeah, all the other nonsense. The thing for me is, as much as I liked Thomas Jane Punisher, and I loved that movie. I loved how Jane played that character. I think he played him pitch perfect, honestly. I think he played him better than anybody before him or after him, except for maybe Bernthal. But I keep coming back to WandaVision and the precedent that they're setting up here is, and I feel like I'm being a dead horse at this point, but the multiverse dynamic is going to be your best bet. And I think the most logical bet for how they bring all these other characters that the Marvel Studios and Disney didn't have access to until they did that acquisition.
Yeah, like the Fox X-Men.
Well, I was actually listening to another channel that just recently started subscribed to me, and it's called Pop Culture Corner.
Oh, I heard that guy. He was
have
on
you heard of them?
Nicotina's. Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was on Nicotina's watch party.
Yeah. Oh no, he just it popped up in my notifications that they subscribed, and well, if Pop Culture Corner, if you catch this, thanks again for the support. I appreciate it. But they had actually had a top 10 that they did, and they were talking about the top 10 wish lists that they hope for the MCU going forward. And several of the points that they brought up were along the lines of X-Men and so on, and Fantastic Four, particularly with Doctor Doom. And
I heard Doctor Doom might be in Black Panther too.
And if that's the case, that'd be cool because it just depends on how they bring Doom in. That's the big thing. And hopefully they're able to air. My dream casting for him, Giancarlo Esposito. I know he just recently has been doing Moff Gideon, but he's got that cold, calculating intellect that is very much the part of Doctor Doom's character. So, but something else I wanted to bring up, and this was a point that Madam Ambassador brought up to me. All the commercials they've done thus far.
Yeah. That's from Wanda's past. Every moment from the past MCU films.
It's not just that. Each one symbolizes one of the Infinity Stones.
Oh yeah, I heard something about that. Like the red mess was the ether, the Mind Stone, the Tesseract.
The Power Stone.
Yeah, I didn't figure that it would be that too. I thought it was just events from Wanda's past.
No, somebody put out the idea, and I think it's accurate. I am actually gonna have to go back and watch the commercials now. I'm gonna see if somebody's done a compilation on YouTube of them. But they're saying that each one of those commercials is a symbol for one of the Infinity Stones. So, and I thought that was another neat little Easter egg that they included in the episode.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to look into that a little bit more.
Well, let's see. We're on episode 5. We've got 4 more because it's 9 episodes. We've got 4 more episodes to go before the wrap up.
Yeah, and they said that the last 3 are going to be really huge, like Endgame level.
That's a possibility. For a while there, I honestly thought that I didn't know when this series took place, but now that they've established it, it does really feed into Wanda's frame of mind because she's still grieving. She's still mourning Vision's death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is for her as a mourning mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. So the question becomes, what is, and this is no pun whatsoever intended, what's the end game for this series? Is she going to be able to finally move on and leave Westview, and what are going to be the ultimate ramifications of her leaving?
Yeah.
Is this going to tie into Doctor Strange 2?
Yeah, I mean,
or is it going to lead somewhere else? My guess would be go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I know that Benedict Cumberbatch's Strange will appear at the end of the show.
Say that one more time.
Well, I have a feeling Benedict Cumberbatch's Strange will appear at the end of the show.
It's a possibility. It's a very distinct possibility. We'll have to obviously wait and see. So, anything else about this episode that y'all want to cover that I probably have missed? Or that we haven't really dug into?
I'm not sure.
There was something I was thinking about earlier. So director Hayward.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something up with him.
Yeah, something shady.
Yeah.
I don't know
because he was so quick to call Wanda a terrorist and so quick to heist Monica Rambeau's little drone mission into like an assassination plot against Wanda.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, he could be now. This is maybe playing a little bit of devil's advocate. He could simply be trying to be a pragmatist, prepare for all outcomes. Because if you think about the organization he's running, they're a little more proactive than Shield was. I mean, their acronym is obviously SWORD. Now, here's the other the other interesting thing about that acronym: Sentient Weapons Observation Response Division.
Does that have any meaning?
Huh?
Does that have any meaning?
Well, think about it. Sentient weapons.
What's like a human weapons? Mutants.
An enhanced
like
human.
mutant.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily just mutants, Andrew, but enhanced humans like Wanda, like Captain Marvel, like Vision, like any of the Avengers. Think about it. Even
Hulk is
Iron
kind of
Man.
like enhanced.
Yeah, like the Hulk, like Iron Man.
How is like Iron Man enhanced?
His suit.
Because he has a freaking ridiculous suit.
Yeah, exactly.
It enhances him.
It enhances him. Exactly. So, but I don't necessarily see Hayward as shady. I see him as a pragmatist. He's trying to play all the angles to make sure nothing goes bad. Because if you think about it, he focuses on Sokovia. Or not Sokovia, but he focuses on Germany. He's and Geneva and Lagos.
Yeah.
For him, he's trying to make sure none of those incidents ever happens again. So I think he's being a good director. I think he's trying to be a good leader. Would I necessarily agree with all of his actions? No, I wouldn't. I don't think weaponizing that drone was the best idea, considering you're dealing with, and I'm going to just say it because it's what I've made up, you're dealing with a child of infinity. Do you really think a missile is going to take out a child of infinity?
Yeah.
Just saying. You're dealing with a person that has been quite clearly imbued with the power of an infinity stone. I mean, this is essentially like when Galactus creates one of his heralds. He uses the power cosmic or CMBR to create his herald. It's how the Silver Surfer was created. It was how Nova, all of Galactus's heralds were essentially imbued with a portion of cosmic power. In the case of Wanda and Captain Marvel, they have been imbued with, to a certain extent, the powers of an Infinity Stone.
Right.
I guarantee you, those soldiers shoot. She throws up a force field or something, those bullets don't do jack diddly to her.
Right.
Yeah.
You cannot deal with beings like this in the conventional means. You need now, and that leads me to another question I want to ask both of you. When Darcy and Wu and Monica are having that conversation, and they're talking about who had a better shot of taking out Thanos, and I think
and then he brought up Captain Marvel, and Monica was like, nah, who cares?
Monica had kind of a, what do you think that was all about, or do you think there's anything to that?
I have two guesses. One, okay. I think she's upset that she wasn't there to help her mother when she was sick, or not being there at all for, because I think the last time the two of them interacted was back in the 90s.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Nerdlot,
because you know that apparently her mother died 3 years after Thanos did the snap.
Yeah, I think Andrew nailed it right on the head there.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Hey, Andrew, why do you think I have you on here? You usually have good ideas, bud. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass.
Well, hey, no one ever thinks. No, I never finally get someone say, "Wow, you have made a good point." I never have anyone say that to me.
Well, guess what? It's a first.
Yeah.
It happened on the Ambassador Wing. I do want to bring up Neon Sci-Fi's comment here. He's like, I think you're right with Wanda coping for a life that she never got, that she's seen on TV growing up. Endgame was for her was to live it out, but it fell apart. Yeah. This, like I said, I think this is one giant coping mechanism for her. There was a comment that she made towards the end of the episode with Vision, right after they have their little altercation. They're sitting there on the couch, and she's like, "Do you really think I'm controlling absolutely everything in this town? I'm getting everybody to where they need to be?" I think to a degree she is, but I don't think she realizes that she is.
Well, when the doorbell rang, she said, "I didn't do that."
Yeah. Well, if you remember a little earlier in the episode when somebody asked, or I think it's one of the boys asked her, "Did you have a brother or sister?" And she's like, "Yeah, I have a brother," and he's
maybe the twins tried to bring her back, but didn't know Quicksilver with Aaron Taylor Johnson, so they made him look like Evan Peters.
That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's invalid. It could very well be the case that the boys did it if their abilities are attuned with altering reality or manipulating the multiversal barrier and bringing people across it. Or it could be something, because if you remember, Wanda has a conversation about her brother. And then shortly thereafter, they send that drone in. And then when she comes back out, or when she comes out and gives them, and then if you notice, she alters the barrier to where it looks completely red. I think those two actions had something to do with the Quicksilver that we see show up.
What do you think, Nerla?
I actually have. I'm more in the Mephisto camp with the Wanda reality bubble, where my thought is that, and I think this might be a little bit too much for general audiences, but my thought is that Mephisto created the Wanda reality bubble for her so she could have kids, and he's going to take the kids from her. Agnes is there to make sure that the kids grow up nice and strong and can do Mephisto's bidding for him in the future. And Mephisto brought Quicksilver from the Fox universe to the MCU universe to basically calm Wanda down.
And what if we're really starting the multiverse with the whole Evan Peters thing? If he's from the Fox universe, shouldn't James McAvoy, Charles Xavier know?
Yeah, and that might be one of the ways that we're getting the X-Men pulled in, is that McAvoy is over in his universe sitting there like, well, where's Quicksilver? Like, what happened to Quicksilver? Like, he just completely vanished, because we know that Charles Xavier can pinpoint every single mutant in his reality, so he's going to know that he's gone.
Yeah, if at the end, when if Doctor Strange come in and he said, "I brought a friend to help," and you see a wheelchair come up and it's James McAvoy's Professor X, I'll lose it.
Exactly. That's kind of my working theory.
and I'm not saying it's inaccurate. Again, it's a working theory. We don't have enough at this point to really hammer the nail into. Okay, this is definitely what's going on. I don't see Mephisto at play here.
The devil's in the details, though.
I honestly, I think that was just a throwaway line. I don't think Agatha's saying that necessarily means that Mephisto has anything to do with this whatsoever. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'll eat a big piece of humble pie and say, okay, I was wrong. It is Mephisto. I'm not saying I'm not anti Mephisto, but there's not been enough clues or evidence to suggest that Mephisto is the one doing all this. Even Monica herself said, it's all Wanda. It's all Wanda. She's the one doing this. It's all her.
Well, in the same episode, she's like, you really think I'm doing all this, controlling everyone? I don't even know how this all started.
That's my key line, is where Wanda says, I don't even know how all of this started in the first place.
And then again, she could just be playing dumb with Vision.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the fun thing about this show. That's the really fun thing about this show, is that yes. Like that seems like they're like leaving all these little breadcrumbs, but they're like just tossing them out. And only one of the lines of breadcrumbs is going to be the right one. And when it happens, we're all going to be ecstatic about it. And like,
I would say
it's just going to be, it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 4 more episodes before this thing's done, so it's only going to get better from here. Then that is for sure. You know, I will say this much. I was a little bit on the fence about the whole idea of them doing streaming series based in the MCU at first. And I know it's just one series and the series isn't done yet. But considering how well they planned out the first 3 phases of the MCU, and now we're in phase 4 essentially now.
I know the next show after this is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and I think Loki's supposed to come out sometime this year, if I remember correctly.
That one I'm interested
in.
That one I'm interested in, the Loki show.
Yeah, I think Loki is supposed to start sometime this year as well. If WandaVision is any indication of what we're going to be getting going forward, then I am very happy to see them do these series and then tie it into movies that they'll release periodically. You know, I was a little bit on the fence of, can they really? Are they going to be able to do? Are they going to be able to catch lightning in a bottle a second time with what they're doing now? We'll have to wait and see. But so far, WandaVision.
They just announced recently that War Machine Don Cheadle is going to be in the Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I did hear about that, and I'm all for that. To be honest with you, I liked John Cheadle as Rhodes. He was a good character, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him going forward. So,
and then they also say a while ago that Chris Evans is coming back as Captain America.
I think there are rumors. I don't know if there's anything.
I remember Deadline's talking about it.
Who?
I remember Deadline talking about it.
Usually Deadline's pretty reliable, so that's very possible. And I think they're a lot more reliable than some other sites like We've Got It Discovered. Just saying. So, well, guys, anything else you want to talk about with WandaVision or along those lines?
I think all in all, can't wait to see what the future holds.
I think that's true for everybody, honestly. And I'll bring up Barcy's comment here. Oh, wrong one.
I honestly hope
I agree with her.
Cap. Yeah, they shouldn't bring back Cap and Iron Man unless it's flashbacks.
Yeah, those two ended on such. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, in fact, you can finish what you're saying. I'll say mine.
Okay. Honestly, those two ended their arcs on such strong notes. I don't want to. It's not that the comic book geek in me doesn't want to see them again on the big screen or the small screen, but at the same time, their arcs were ended so poetically and so perfectly. I think it would almost cheapen what happened with them to bring them back, unless it, like Barcy said here, unless it's for flashbacks. Okay, now Andrew.
Yeah, but all in all, I like what they're doing. And are you surprised now that Marvel is starting to bring back old actors from the previous live action movies and TV shows in Marvel?
Mm-hmm. Particularly from the Fox properties.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep doing that and bring back more like James McAvoy or Michael Fassbender, whew.
Yeah.
I mean, it can go even further with any of the Marvel films before MCU, like the Raimi Spider-Man, the Eric 2003's Hulk, Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you'll get Nicolas Cage, but maybe if they get the actor that had been betraying Ghost Rider from the Netflix series, that could potentially work.
Yeah, I mean, we already know that the Spider-Man 3 is bringing all three movie Spider-Mans together.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, and honestly, I'm good with that. So, Neon Sci-Fi said I think they can make more great shows. They have a lot of books to pull from. Neon, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Nerdlot. Go ahead, Nerdlot.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Just what you guys were talking about just a second ago. As long as they don't bring Topher Grace back as Eddie Brock, I'm completely fine with anybody they bring back.
All I've heard so far is that we're getting Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Jamie Foxx's Electro, I think Vulture, Michael Keaton, and James Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, and Sandman from Spider-Man 3. That's all I've heard so far.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and if that's the case, as long as they can balance it out properly where it isn't muddled, I think it'll be a solid movie. So
yeah, I think so. I mean, to have like three Spider-Mans teaming up to save the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, they did with Into the Spider-Verse with that animated film, and oh my gosh,
it was when I ranked my Spider-Man films, my number one, of course, is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. My number 2 is Into the Spider-Verse, and my number 3 is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2002, the first one.
Good choices all across the board. So, Neon, how about time travel? That's when you can see them again.
That makes sense because in Endgame they introduced time travel, and that means no one stays dead now.
Yeah, but I think that not stays dead, but I think they ended Tony and Kat and Steve's storyline so well. Just bringing them back for maybe a flashback, I'm good with, but actually bringing them back full on, I'm not for it. Because well, okay, it's kind of like the principle, and I don't know, you two may disagree with me, and that's fine if you do. It's kind of like the whole thing with Rise of Skywalker where they brought Palpatine back and just they gave him a satisfying death. His story arc was complete in the first 6 movies, and then they do this whole thing, and you ruin what was a poignant and meaningful conclusion to his arc, and not to mention it closed the circle on another story arc or character arc in terms of Anakin. So bringing back characters that were previously dead is always like walking a tightrope. It's tricky to do, and oftentimes it doesn't land well.
I agree.
So, Neon Sci-Fi, you think Sony will let Marvel do that or save that for their movies? I think either's a possibility. It comes down to this: the cold hard cash. And I'll bring up.
And speaking of that, you think that some previous actors that you don't think could come back, like Hugh Jackman, like that stuff, couldn't do it? Like you said, Kevin Feige knows his stuff, and money talks.
I think if you're going to try to get Jackman back, they're going to have a really good reason, because let's be honest here, Nerdla, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I think the ending they gave for Logan, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, was perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And I even heard, well, what about Deadpool? Ryan Reynolds has a funny joke.
Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I think, is a win.
He could be like, what fourth wall break could he come to say if he was in that show?
Oh, you mean for WandaVision?
Yeah, it would be how hilarious it could be.
I have no idea, but honestly, I don't think it fits well within what they're trying to do with the show.
I think that would be a weird shift of tone.
Yeah, it would be very dramatic. It would be very out of place, honestly. The thing, and Andrew, this is not me trying to berate you or anything, but there's something that when I say this, I hope you'll understand. There's something you need to learn that you need to understand about tone within a narrative. If you have a very dramatic and heavy storyline in a show or a movie, tossing in just a random piece of humor can be extremely jarring. It can disrupt the narrative flow of the story you're trying to tell. So popping Deadpool into a show like WandaVision that does have some humor, but is actually dealing with very heavy themes, is going to be very jarring, even for people like us who are familiar with the MCU and the type of narratives and the type of storylines that are present. So, I hope.
All right. I was supposed to say thank you for having me, but I gotta get going. Someone asked me to come on and do the stream.
Okay. Well, we'll probably go wrap up here in a few minutes, anyways.
Right. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Andrew. You're welcome anytime, man. You know that.
All right.
Bye. Bye, bud. So, we'll pop through Barcelona and Neon's comments here, and then we'll probably wrap up our live. That's good with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Barcy, she's like, I've never been a fan of time travel. I hope they don't overuse it. Yeah, I've always liked time travel stories. They're honestly one of my favorite genres of science fiction. I mean, Back to the Future, one of my all-time favorite movie series. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. And honestly, I don't know if you are aware of this, Barcelona, but time travel is something that's very prevalent, particularly in the XMen storylines. There's a lot of time hopping, particularly forward in time, particularly when you get into the XMen of the 80s and 90s storylines, especially, and a little bit into the 70s as well, particularly when you're dealing with Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Cable. So, and Neon.
Yeah, in her next comment, the end game time travel was just so hard to follow. The good time travel stuff is where it's very simplistic. But that end game was it was a mind wrecker.
It was a bit convoluted. I will agree. I can understand where some people had difficulty following it, and I do understand that. So, myself, I was able to follow it pretty well. So it wasn't a big thing for me to jump over or to move past.
No, yeah, it didn't like.
Yeah,
it didn't like ruin the movie, but just kind of headache-ish. If that's a word.
Yeah, it gives you a headache. I can understand that. I really can. And I'm not going to berate anybody who's like, yeah, the time travel principles in game were kind of convoluted. I'll agree that they were to a degree convoluted. The time travel stories, you have to keep the mechanism by which the time travel is done simple. You have to make the rules simple for by which the universe functions within the story, and you have to make the mechanism, the device of the time travel, simple enough for the audience to follow as well. That's why The Time Machine by H.G. Wells is kind of the benchmark for how a time travel story can be done. And of course, you've got Back to the Future. You keep the rules simple. You're in a machine that can take you backwards or forwards in time. Here are some things that can happen, and it's easy for everyone to follow. And yeah, Barcelona, I actually watched Barcelona. I think if you're referencing the DC animated film Flashpoint, yeah, I did like. Or if you're talking about the comic book storyline, which is kind of was the basis for the animated film. Yeah, I did enjoy that Flashpoint story with Flash, obviously, and I'll bring up Neon's here. In Endgame, Thanos from the past came to the future. Did he get killed, or did Tony snap him back to the past? Neon, I'm probably going to say that Thanos was snapped. He was erased. So that would be my guess. Yeah, and Neon, that is part of the problem. If Thanos dies in the future, there's no Thanos in the past to do the snap. But the thing is, this is where the time travel rules get kind of convoluted for Endgame. Anything that was done in the future does not necessarily affect the past. So that past Thanos still exists, even though the future version of himself was killed by Thor when he went for the head, as Thanos suggested in their first encounter. So I think that's the way you kind of rectify that whole issue there is the Thanos that they encounter on the Garden Planet or whatever it was called was killed, but the Thanos in the past still existed, and the Thanos from the past that confronts them at the wreckage of the Avengers headquarters was snapped, was erased by Tony when he did his snap. But that's not to say that Thanos couldn't potentially pop up again. Because here's the thing about Thanos, if you know the comic books. There are times he will actually ally himself with the heroes. Then there are even times when the heroes and villains will ally themselves with one another, particularly if it's a threat that's big enough. Nerdlot, did you ever read the Infinity War comic book series from back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how well you remember it. I actually have the trade paperback of it. But there were, in that particular series, the heroes and the villains did team up with one another, and they even recruited Thanos himself, the big bad from Infinity Gauntlet, to work alongside them.
Yeah.
He did. Because
I was really into the Silver Surfer at the time those were coming out. So he had a lot of books.
Yes, I actually remember
he became. You remember those books? Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I love Silver Surfer was always one of my favorite characters from Marvel Comics, and I hope that eventually I hope eventually that we will get a proper Silver Surfer introduction. I won't say that I disliked the Silver Surfer that was in the second Fantastic Four movie. I thought he was a pretty good. I think he was actually a fairly faithful adaptation of the character. I actually liked the fact that he was a CGI character, and I did like Lawrence Fishburne's voice performance for him. So
I actually like that movie a lot.
The only thing that really ticked me off about that movie was Galactus.
Galactus, yeah, but I don't think they.
Look, here's the, and if you disagree with me, Nerdlot, that's fine. The thing for me about that second Fantastic Four movie, the premise wasn't necessarily bad, but the thing that took me out of it was the design for Galactus. Now, I'm not saying you have to have some ginormous guy in a purple suit of armor that looks exactly comic book accurate to what we see, everything from the comics into the movie. But a giant cloud? No.
Yeah.
Just no. So I'm hoping
I think going back to it, I think one of the main reasons I like it is because we get to see Silver Surfer on the screen.
Same here. I will say that the 90s cartoon that they did and everything wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed the 90s cartoon that Marvel Animation put out. I don't know if you remember this or not.
I've never seen that. Fantastic Four?
No, Silver Surfer had his own animated series for a little while.
Oh, I think I don't think I've ever seen it, but I can picture the like cover to it in my head.
I'll try and DM you or tweet you some stills or whatever from it. Fun little fact. The guy that did the voice of Apocalypse from the XMen animated series actually did the voice for Galactus for the Silver Surfer series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and well, one other more fun little fact: the X-Men animated series is currently on Disney Plus.
Oh, I know. I tried to get my son Luke to watch it, but he likes the newer stuff. Like, get that older animation, and it just doesn't enthrall him like the newer stuff. I don't know why.
Kids are geared differently than you or me back when we were kids.
Yeah.
So it's just it is what it is. For me, that will be one of the best X-Men animated adaptations ever done, was that 90s series, because they had so many great storylines that actually gave us a good adaptation of the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas. Man,
yeah,
can't we get a
the ones I always remember are the Savage Lands one. Those always stick out in my head more than any of them.
Yeah, particularly with the one with Mr. Sinister.
Yeah. Yep.
When he kidnaps Cyclops and Jean Grey, and that's the one riddle the one little riddle and everything about X-Men I was never able to figure out. Why was it that Cyclops' optic beams were the only thing that actually could hurt Sinister? That's the one thing I could never figure out. I'll have to do some digging on that, because that always bothered me. Like, why could nobody else actually hurt him, but Cyclops could? So,
never thought of that either.
Yeah, a lot of people could hurt him, but Cyclops was the only one that could hurt him and kill him. Like, do any real lasting damage on him. So, well, yeah, folks, I think we're going to wrap up here, but I just want to thank... Andrew, it should still be on Twitter's, but actually, Andrew, we're going to wrap up here in just a minute. So, if you want to come back in after we're done or anything, you're welcome to. But we're gonna wrap up for the night. So, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. I hope y'all enjoyed the discussion, just enjoyed the stream. So make sure you smash that like button as always. And if you come across this stream and you enjoyed the discussion we had, hit that subscribe button, and also go subscribe to this guy next to me. That's our Nerdlot. He does a lot of good content over on his channel, and it's always Nerdlot. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I think I've actually missed you and me working together.
Having me.
You're welcome, bud. And to our good friend. And to our good friend Brian Hill, who was MIA tonight. Brian, bud, we hope you're doing well, and we missed you. And hopefully next week we'll be able to have you back. I do want to give everybody a quick update on next week. I will be doing this review, but we might do it as a prelude. We might do it as a little bit more shorter, because next Saturday night I'm actually going to be doing my first of 2 watch parties for the month. And we're going to be watching Man of Steel in preparation for the release of the Snyder Cut next month. So I might do the review for WandaVision earlier. I might go live at 6:30, and then we'll go into the watch party over on Twitch for Man of Steel, and then we'll come back afterwards and do a little more discussion on either WandaVision or Man of Steel, one or the other. So if any of you would like to be a part of that stream, just get a hold of me on social media. I'm just about everywhere. So, and then of course the week after we'll be doing we'll do the same thing, but we're going to be watching Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition. This will actually be my first time viewing it, because I've never seen Batman vs Superman, either the regular version or the Ultimate Edition. So, anyways,
good.
Yeah, and I've got being Valentine's Day is coming up. I've got a couple extra little bonus streams I'm gonna be doing for everybody, and I'll be releasing those coming up next week as to what those are going to pertain to. And there are a couple of fun topics I hope everybody will enjoy. So, anyways, folks, you all have a great night, a great weekend, and if you happen to watch the Super Bowl, hope you enjoy it. So, go Chiefs, go what was the other team? Dang it, I saw a flyer for it today. The Bucks. So, go Chiefs, go Bucks. So, that all being said, you have a great one, and until next time, these are the ambassadors.